Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs program. I'm Gerry Williams. Join me now for my third and final segment of my conversation with Vice President of WIHS, Drew Crandall, on the life and legacy of Prudence Crandall. That's happening now on the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs.
I also, when I look at her life after what happened in Connecticut, I think she sort of burned out on church. And, I think many of us who have been walking with the Lord for a long time and have been active in church, there's a lot of stuff that happens in church that can discourage you.
Right.
And I know in our culture here in Connecticut, I know a lot of Christ followers who gave up on going to church. And I'd encourage you, don't give up on church. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together as a manner of some is. That you're dealing with imperfect people in an imperfect world, and we all have our stuff. Don't ever, ever, ever forget to walk with the Lord. You're saved, you're signed, sealed, and you're delivered. Your eternal destiny is secure. You have the indwelling Holy Spirit. You're sealed by the Holy Spirit unto the day of redemption. You're born again of incorruptible seed that fadeth not away. People may discourage you. You may burn out on them, but don't burn out on Jesus. He's going to be with you till the end. And I see that in her life. She just a very courageous, spunky woman who made a difference for centuries. Her footprint still has a presence here in our culture today.
And so does yours. You are busy for the things of God, and I just commend and I applaud you for what you do, Drew, and have been doing for decades. So we're here to talk about the life and legacy of Prudence Crandall, but Drew has many other things that he's a part of, and he's motivated by the Spirit of God within him to make a difference in such a time as this.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Gerry, thank you for those kind words. But I also am so encouraged by Elder John Crandall, who landed here in 1634. I'm so grateful that I have this kind of family heritage.
Yes. Because
to go off on a little rabbit trail, put yourself in their shoes back in the 1600s. Right. They're in Holland or they're in England. They're being persecuted by the Anglican Church. All they want is to worship the Lord in freedom. And imagine being on this rickety wooden boat and going across the ocean blue. Number one, not knowing if you'd make it across the ocean to get to the New World, and not knowing what you'd face when you got there. And Reverend John Crandall, not only did he bring his party over in a boat in 1634 and settled in Massachusetts and then Rhode Island, but he went back to England 2 more times in a rickety wooden boat to help to secure the charter for the colony of Rhode Island. So I sort of equate getting in that boat to go from Holland or England to the New World was the equivalent of strapping yourself in the space shuttle. It really was. And not only did he get in that shuttle once, but he got in 5 times.
Yeah. And
so it took great courage to do what the Pilgrims did. To settle here for religious freedom and with a dream of building a better place.
Do you happen to know how long did it take by boat from here to go across the pond, if you will? Days, weeks, months?
I want to say it took 30 to 60 days.
30 to 60 days.
I think I studied that out a few years ago. I could be wrong, but I think that's about what the journey took.
Amazing.
Yep.
Wow. So he came over and founded the colony of Rhode Island.
Yeah, he was one of the founders, yep.
And you're what generation removed? How many down?
I'm an 11th generation descendant of Reverend John Crandall. If you study the history of Rhode Island, it became from the outset a bastion for religious liberty. And the very first synagogue in the United States was in Rhode Island.
Wow.
There's a reason for that. Religious liberty is something that's very strong in the heritage and history of the colony of Rhode Island.
Well, it's also home to my favorite beach,
right.
Misquamicut.
Absolutely.
So that's my go-to beach every year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. When the next time you're at Misquamicut, if you go to the main road from the mainland, and then to get to the state beach, you take the left at that T intersection.
Right.
Take a right, and you'll go down the street a little bit, and you'll see Crandall Avenue.
Crandall Avenue.
And there are a couple Crandall cemeteries in Westerly.
Yeah.
Actually, the Crandall homestead is still there. I was at a ceremony in the early 1990s when the Crandall family gave about 200 acres of land back to the Narragansett Indians. He had purchased the land from the Narragansett Indians back in the 1600s, and then we gave it back to the Indians, to the Native Americans there. And there's a Crandall family cemetery there. And then if anybody listening goes to Burlingame State Park, and they camp there, I used to camp there as a kid, and I was walking on one of the fire trails, and I literally stumbled across this Crandall family cemetery right in the middle of the woods.
Incredible.
Yep. At one point, the Crandalls owned part of Watch Hill, some property there, and some property on an island on Long Island Sound.
Wow, you have quite a heritage. The
Yep.
Crandalls have really stamped their mark in history here. Drew Crandall, and we're in the midst of Black History Month talking about the life and legacy of Prudence Crandall, who started an all-black girls' school. And any information about some of the girls that went through the school subsequently, what became of some of them?
I'm so glad you asked that question because the ripple effect of Prudence's life and what she did in Canterbury, Connecticut was absolutely amazing when you study what happened to the lives of her students. They were so inspired and so touched by what she did and the love she had for them and the courage she had to do what she did that as the decades went by after things ended in Canterbury, it's amazing. For example, Sarah Harris, the 20-year-old who actually asked if she could enroll, Mary Harris, Sarah's younger sister, eventually married and moved to the New Orleans area, where they were heavily involved in teaching black students. Mm-hmm. Eliza Glasgow married a prominent black educator and deacon of St. Philip's Church, a black Episcopalian congregation in New York City. Theodosia DeGrasse married Peter Vogelsang Jr. in New York City. It appears that they also worshipped at St. Philip's Church. Mary Miles finished her schooling in Lexington, Massachusetts, and became a teacher. She married Henry Bibb, a runaway slave. The couple moved to Canada, became leaders in several anti-slavery societies.
Wow.
He published the first major newspaper to be published by and for African Canadians and was a popular speaker. Julia Williams continued her education in New Hampshire. She became an ardent advocate of abolition. She married Henry Garnett, a fugitive slave, minister, and prominent leader of the abolitionist movement. Elizabeth Smith returned to Providence, where she was a teacher and a principal of a school for black students.
Wow.
And the good news is, with the getting back to Prudence with her legal case, the Black Law, as it was called, Crandall versus State, that's what it was called. The Black Law was repealed, and later in life, the legislature gave Prudence a stipend. Again, it's not only what she did, but the influence and impact she had on the lives of her students and just the ripple effect. And isn't that, when you think of Jesus with this small group of 12 guys, changed the world.
Changed the world.
So again, it goes back to this principle of one person can make a difference. A small group is a powerful thing. So don't get discouraged in this culture where we think that everything that's good has to be big. Not necessarily so, because the Lord works one person at a time, and you can make a big difference. The
word big. And folks, I'm looking at a very big Bible right next to Drew. The Crandall family Bible, dating back to, what's the date of this thing?
1885. I grew up with that Bible in our living room, sort of as a museum piece, and my dad bequeathed it to me before he died. And so in my office here in Vernon, I have sort of a Crandall family corner where I have books on Prudence and my Crandall genealogy and the Crandall family Bible. And it's again, being in Connecticut, we love our history here.
Yes.
And so I love having that history right here in my office every day.
Well, the Crandall name lives on, making a difference through you, my friend. So keep fighting the good fight of faith and keep doing what you're doing. We love you, Drew.
Thanks. Love you too.
God bless you. And you just heard my third and final segment of my conversation with Drew Crandall, talking about the life and legacy of Prudence Crandall during this Black History Month. If you would like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049. That's 860-346-1049. I'm Gerry Williams for the WIHS Journal Public Affairs program at 104.9 FM, WIHS in Middletown.